iron you out.
Of course. Big fights coming up. How do you see yourself getting it done against Gaethje? Of course, he's had a lot of battles. There's a lot of fight tape to watch on him, to say the least. He's had a bunch of scraps. He's got finishes. He's been finishes. How do you see yourself getting it done? Because he hasn't really fought a guy like... I mean, you're a bit of an Oliveira, but... You know what I mean? It's a new style for him. You're not just the typical up-and-coming scrapper brawler that's going to get into a fun scrap with Gaethje. There's more intricacies to your game with the grappling as well. So how do you think you're going to get this one done?
Paddy Pimblett, the UFC's rising star, was just submitted. Not in a private sparring session, but in a local King of the Mat grappling competition in England. This bombshell, almost entirely hidden, unveils a rare glimpse into risks elite athletes take. Imagine LeBron James joining a local tournament. It's unheard of. Yet Paddy risked defeat right before his most significant UFC fight. The lack of widespread coverage makes this quiet setback compelling, suggesting a calculated silence around an event that could impact his mental game heading into UFC 34. This unexpected vulnerability adds depth to the baddie's persona.
Nice. That's the prediction I got. You mentioned Luke Riley there. I was going to save this bit of a segue later into the interview, but fucking what a KO in his debut. I was talking about Luke Riley fucking a few years before he got into the UFC. I keep telling people to look out for these guys on the regional scene, especially at Next Gen. They got a lot of up-and-comers. I know you got George Staines there as well, the fucking Elon Musk of MMA.
The shocking news of Paddy's grappling loss comes just as Joe Rogan himself has slammed the upcoming UFC 3T4 headliner, Justin Gaethje versus Paddy Pimblett. Rogan vehemently opposes it being an interim title fight. He argued the bout should not carry such prestige, especially considering current champion Ilia Topuria's planned return around spring 2026. This isn't a long enough absence in Rogan's view to warrant an interim belt. The controversy suggests a deliberate move by the UFC, not a genuine need for a temporary champion. Rogan's direct criticism highlights a potential manipulation of the rankings and title picture.
Yeah, he's you know, not the billionaire thing, but that build's unique.
Yeah,
George Staines.
It is, lad. He's got.
But here's where it gets interesting, because Paddy Pimblett isn't walking into this fight blind. Paddy's style has always been about chaos, pressure, and dragging fights into uncomfortable territory. He's not afraid to get hit if it means creating an opening, and he thrives when fights get scrappy. Rogan has pointed out that Paddy's biggest strength isn't just his grappling, it's his ability to stay calm in madness. When opponents panic, Paddy accelerates. Stylistically, this is where the fight becomes fascinating. Gaethje wants the fight standing, at mid-range, chopping the legs, forcing exchanges, and turning it into a war of durability. Paddy wants chaos, clinches, scrambles, awkward entries, and moments where Gaethje's aggression can be turned against him. If Paddy can survive the early storm and create grappling exchanges, this fight looks very different. And that's the real question everyone is debating. Can Paddy Pimblett survive Justin Gaethje's early pressure? Because Gaethje doesn't start slow, he comes out fast.
I expect the war, obviously. Justin Gaethje's one of my favourite fighters to watch. He's your favourite fighter's favourite fighter, and it's going to be a pleasure to get in there with him. I'd love to have a brawl for 5 rounds. As he said, him versus Michael Johnson, how he introduced himself to the UFC. I'd love to have a fight like that, but I don't think it'll pan out that way. But let's see what happens. Hopefully, I'm getting a performance bonus and a fight of the night bonus.
Rumors have been swirling that Justin Gaethje is injured. A few videos have surfaced of him diving and cracking heads with someone which wobbled him bad. Do you have any inside information? Have you not heard of this? Okay, actually, I got to be honest. I thought you guys were talking about... I thought he was going to ask about... I saw a bunch of pictures about this thing.
Up, though, right?
Yeah, the ingrown hair is what he's claiming.
Okay. Right.
Ingrown hair and a bit of brisket. Yeah.
Brisket?
Yeah, a little brisket on the chin.
Because they said he had herpes on his mouth. He's like, I was eating brisket and I had an ingrown hair.
If that is an ingrown hair, that's the gnarliest ingrown hair I've ever seen. That makes like a little red dot on your neck if it's an ingrown hair. He had a crater in his neck. I don't know about
By the way, could you imagine, just for a moment, do you know where I'm going with this?
Yeah.
Do you know where I'm going with this?
I do know
exactly where you're going.
Enter Armin.
Yes.
Enter Armin.
Yes, it's time. Now, is Armin ready is the thing. Is that what he walks out to? Those videos.
No,
I'm like, oh, fuck. Enter Armin.
Enter Armin. Walking out there, eating a fucking turkey leg. I mean, come on.
100.
I think Paddy obviously needs to do what he does really well, which is fights out long, right? He uses those kicks up the middle. He's got a good knee that we saw him land against Chandler. And then almost kind of land your points and force Gaethje to try to close the distance, and that's when I would try to wrestle. He looks huge to me in a good way nowadays, Paddy. I'm always impressed. It seems like he's getting fitter and fitter, further and further out from these fights as well. We only see Fat Paddy for a little bit. Gaethje, I think keeping it on the feet, boxing in close, and just trying to murder the legs like he always does is something that he needs to do. I don't know if testing Paddy's jiu-jitsu is the move for Gaethje. So it'll be interesting, man. But I think Paddy's got a goddamn good chance.
Hard and with bad intentions. Joe Rogan has said before that Gaethje's biggest danger is in the first 2 rounds, when his power, leg kicks, and pace are at their peak. If Paddy can weather that and drag the fight into deeper waters, suddenly Gaethje's aggression becomes a liability. But if he can't, one clean Gaethje combination could end the night instantly. The MMA community is completely split on this. Some believe Paddy's chin, toughness, and grappling give him a real path to victory. Others think this is the fight where Paddy finally runs into a level of violence he's never experienced before.
7 years. How does it feel to be the Paramount debut? Is it like a bit of a, you know, they like you? Is it a bit of an honor, or you don't really give a shit about that type of thing?
Rogan's issues with the interim title run deeper than timing. He controversially declared this belt might not even be for the 3rd best fighter in lightweight, with names like Arman Tsarukyan, Max Holloway, and Charles Oliveira still looming. The argument is compelling. The implication is clear. The UFC crafts narratives, not always rewarding pure merit. This challenge to the interim belt's credibility immediately frames the Gaethje Pimblett clash as potentially manufactured, rather than a true championship eliminator. It raises critical questions about who the promotion truly intends to elevate and why.
Nice. All right then. This is a big matchup. We've come a long way, Paddy. We've come a long way from Luigi Vendramini to Justin Gaethje. Is there any is there any surrealness to it? Like you're actually fighting this guy that you probably, I would imagine, was watching before you even got into the UFC. This is fucking Justin, the highlight reel. Gaethje.
The widespread speculation among insiders is that this interim title fight is strategically designed to benefit 2 specific fighters. First, it's meant to pit Justin Gaethje, who has publicly stated he's only interested in fighting for UFC gold. Second, and perhaps more importantly, the promotion desperately wants to see Paddy Pimblett crowned a champion. This perceived favoritism, at the expense of other deserving contenders, fuels the controversy. The narrative suggests the UFC is actively shaping careers, using the interim title as a vehicle for their chosen stars. This underlying agenda makes the stakes even higher for both.
Yeah, you've been in this position before against Tony Ferguson. When you're in the cage, it's completely locked in, but is there a moment where you're thinking, like, fucking hell, this is Tony Ferguson, lad? Is there any, like...
Now let's dive into the fight. Paddy Pimblett sees a clear path to victory, confidently predicting a knockout or submission finish against Gaethje. He believes Gaethje's aggressive, take-one-to-give-one style, which led to losses against elite fighters like Eddie Alvarez, Dustin Poirier, and Charles Oliveira, will be his downfall. Paddy explicitly stated he won't be a stationary target, emphasizing range control and movement. His bold prediction, coming from a grappler, immediately puts Gaethje's legendary durability under an intense spotlight. This unexpected declaration sets a thrilling tone for the stylistic collision.
It's a new style for him. You're not just the typical up-and-coming scrapper brawler that's going to get into a fun scrap with Gaethje. There's more intricacies to your game with the grappling as well. So how do you think you're going to get this one done?
Paddy's confidence isn't unfounded. His training camp reveals a highly specific strategy. He's been sparring extensively with Luke Rowley, whose striking is much better than Gaethje's. Even a coach, Alice, mimics Gaethje's exact build and style. This simulated environment, where his coach has literally been doing Justin's style for me, suggests meticulous preparation. Paddy describes it as a bit of a wake-in, a rude awakening for Gaethje. This detailed insight into Paddy's camp highlights an opponent who isn't just relying on natural talent, but actively deconstructing Gaethje's game, aiming to exploit every weakness.
Kicks too.
Yeah, the leg kicks.
Cow kicks.
And if you watch the Michael Chandler, even though Paddy kind of dismantled Michael Chandler, but Chandler landed some good hits on him and made him back up a bit where it snapped his head. And I think Justin Gaethje is a way better striker than Michael Chandler.
Absolutely.
So I think what we saw with the Fiziev fight, when Justin Gaethje gets into those clinch situations, the uppercut is nasty, bro. And I don't think...
You know, that's our biggest video on YouTube.
Yeah.
It's like over 1 million views.
Yeah.
Check it out.
But I think when Justin Gaethje gets a hand, like finds the range on him and Paddy's chin's gonna be exposed like that, or in a clinch situation, uppercuts him. Yeah, I think that's what's gonna put Paddy away.
Damn, what could be next for Paddy? Ilya says he thinks Paddy kills Justin Gaethje. I don't think kill him, dude. Justin Gaethje is so fucking solid. But again, 5-round fight, 2, 3, 4 rounds into the match, and Paddy does score a takedown. Now he's got maybe Justin Gaethje on his back in half guard.
That's very plausible. Justin forgets he fucking wrestles.
He definitely trains it, but you could see why Ilya thinks that a little bit. Plus, Justin Gaethje's 36, Paddy Pimblett's 30 years old. But again, you can't count Justin Gaethje out. He could knock Paddy the fuck out.
I would lean towards Justin in that fight.
That's what makes this matchup so compelling. It's not about hype anymore. It's about real answers. Win or lose, this fight changes everything. If Paddy wins, he instantly becomes a legitimate contender and silences every critic overnight. If Gaethje wins, it reinforces why he's one of the most feared lightweights of this generation. Either way, Joe Rogan is right. This isn't just another fight. This is a collision of styles, pressure, and mental toughness that could define both careers. And when the cage door closes, there's nowhere to hide.
Beyond the striking, Paddy also declared his intention to take Gaethje down, stating, "I want to take him down. I will take him down. That's as simple as I can see myself dropping him and then upon top and out of the TKO and then on the ground." This assertion directly challenges the common perception that Gaethje's wrestling background would deter such attempts. It signals a multifaceted attack plan, combining striking with opportunistic grappling. Paddy's willingness to engage on the ground, an area Gaethje often neglects, introduces a critical variable that could fundamentally alter the fight's dynamic.
So I'm gonna.
The MMA community is heavily split on Paddy's chances. One side believes his chin, raw toughness, and formidable grappling skills provide a genuine path to victory, especially if he can drag Gaethje into deep waters. They argue that if Paddy can weather the early storm, Gaethje's aggressive style could become a liability later in the fight. This perspective leans on Paddy's proven ability to thrive in chaotic situations, turning opponents' aggression against them. It's a compelling argument for those who see beyond Gaethje's raw power and recognize Paddy's unique ability to adapt and survive. On the other hand, many pundits fear this fight could be an absolute nightmare waiting to happen for Paddy. They believe Gaethje represents a level of violence and relentless pressure Paddy has simply never experienced before. Gaethje is not just a brawler, he's a fighter who doesn't fight to win rounds, he fights to break people. Joe Rogan himself has noted Gaethje's ability to change a fight with a single exchange. This ominous outlook highlights the extreme danger Gaethje poses, suggesting Paddy might finally run into an immovable object, one that could halt his meteoric rise overnight.
You think that before it, like, but when you're in the cage, that's it. I'm just looking at him thinking, you're trying to stop my dreams. You're trying to take food out of my kid's mouth, so I'm gonna iron you out.
Justin Gaethje's strategy will predictably center on devastating leg kicks and brutal hooks, combined with a pace designed to force opponents into mistakes. His aim is to keep the fight standing at mid-range, chopping at Paddy's legs, turning the bout into a grueling war of durability. Experts agree that testing Paddy's jiu-jitsu is likely not the move for Gaethje, suggesting he'll avoid the ground at all costs. This straightforward, violent approach, honed over years against the division's best, presents a stark contrast to Paddy's more intricate game plan. It's a classic battle of relentless force versus calculated chaos. Joe Rogan has repeatedly emphasized that Gaethje's biggest danger lies within the first 2 rounds. This is when Gaethje's power, leg kicks, and blistering pace are at their absolute peak, a period he uses to overwhelm opponents. The critical question for Paddy becomes, can he weather this initial storm? If Paddy can survive this early onslaught and pull Gaethje into later rounds, dynamics shift significantly. However, if Gaethje lands one clean combination, as Rogan warns, Paddy's night could end instantly. This makes the opening minutes of the fight a high-stakes do-or-die scenario. Paddy Pimblett's fighting style is inherently about chaos and pressure, dragging opponents into uncomfortable territory where he thrives. He's famously not afraid to get hit if it creates an opening, and he accelerates when others panic. Rogan has highlighted that Paddy's true strength isn't just his grappling, it's his ability to remain calm amidst absolute madness. This mental fortitude, combined with his scrappy nature and willingness to take risks, makes him a uniquely dangerous opponent. He's a fighter who embraces the unpredictable, turning every scramble and clinch into a potential advantage. The stylistic clash between Gaethje and Pimblett is truly fascinating. Gaethje wants a stand-up war, mid-range exchanges, and heavy leg kicks that wear down his opponent. Paddy, conversely, craves clinches, scrambles, awkward entries, and moments where Gaethje's famed aggression can be redirected or even used against him. If Paddy can successfully force grappling exchanges and get the fight off the feet, the entire complexion of the bout changes dramatically. This fundamental difference in preferred fighting zones sets the stage for a dramatic chess match, where each fighter will desperately try to impose their will. There have been recent rumors swirling about a potential Justin Gaethje injury. Videos surfaced showing him diving and cracking heads during an activity, leaving observers concerned about his condition, adding to the intrigue. Discussions arose about a peculiar facial mark, while some suggested ingrown hair or brisket as the cause. Others described it as a crater in his neck, hinting at something more serious than a minor blemish. This whispers of injury, however minor or significant, introduce an element of uncertainty into Gaethje's preparation, making his legendary toughness an even greater factor. Ilia Topuria, the reigning champion, made a bold prediction. He believes Paddy Pimblett kills Justin Gaethje, while others disagreed with kills. Topuria's confidence in Paddy's ability to score a late-round finish or a takedown is striking. He envisions Paddy potentially getting Gaethje on his back in half guard in rounds 2, 3, or 4. This shows a deep belief in Paddy's ground game and strategic approach against Gaethje's often forgotten wrestling pedigree, adding another layer of expert opinion to the already divided community. The age difference between the fighters is also a key factor. Justin Gaethje, at 36 years old, is considered to be past his physical prime by some, including Joe Rogan, who suggested Gaethje has passed his best days. Paddy Pimblett, at 30, is arguably entering his peak years. While Gaethje's experience is undeniable, the physical toll of his brutal fighting style over more than a decade might be catching up. This contrast in career stages makes the fight a potential passing of the torch, where a younger, ascending force meets a battle-worn legend. It's a classic tale of youth versus experience. Despite the age factor and Topuria's bold prediction, nobody is truly counting Justin Gaethje out. He possesses the kind of one-punch knockout power that can end a fight at any moment, regardless of how many rounds have passed. The threat of him knocking Paddy the DMN out is very real and widely acknowledged. His resilience and ability to endure incredible punishment while dishing it out make him a constant threat. This is why the fight is so compelling. Gaethje might be older, but his inherent danger remains undiminished, forcing every analyst to acknowledge his potent fight-ending capabilities. Paddy openly admits to having watched Gaethje fight since before he even entered the UFC, recalling Gaethje's legendary scraps like the one against Michael Johnson. He even refers to Gaethje as one of his heroes he's looked up to. This admiration, however, quickly turns to ruthless focus once the cage door closes. Paddy describes his in-cage mentality as, "You're trying to stop my dreams, you're trying to take food out of my kid's mind, so I'm gonna iron you out." This raw, emotional shift from hero worship to intense competitiveness highlights the brutal reality of professional fighting. The co-interviewers in the source material, Underground Kings, offer their own final predictions, with one taking the underdog, Justin Gaethje. Their reasoning highlights Gaethje's potent leg kicks and clinching ability. They recalled Michael Chandler landing significant hits on Paddy, causing him to back up, and argue Gaethje is a way better striker than Chandler. The dangerous uppercuts Gaethje showcased in clinch situations, particularly during his fight with Fiziev, are singled out as a potential fight ender. This analysis paints a clear picture of how Gaethje could exploit Paddy's defensive vulnerabilities. The significance of this fight extends far beyond an interim title. Win or lose, this collision is poised to change everything for both men. If Paddy emerges victorious, he instantly catapults into legitimate contention, silencing every critic and proving his championship medal overnight. This would validate all the UFC's investment in his star power. But if Gaethje wins, it irrevocably reinforces his status as one of the most feared and durable lightweights of this generation, proving he still belongs at the absolute top. The stakes simply couldn't be higher. Joe Rogan perfectly summarized the gravity of the situation. This isn't just another fight. This is a collision of styles, pressure, and mental toughness that could define both careers. He captures the essence of a matchup that transcends mere sporting competition. It's a true test of wills, where tactical brilliance meets raw, unadulterated violence. The outcome will not only determine the next interim champion, but will also etch the victor's legacy deeper into the annals of UFC history. The echoes of this battle will resonate for years, shaping perceptions and opening new chapters. This bout will be the first main event in the Paramount, adding another layer of prestige for Paddy. He acknowledges the honor, recognizing that the UFC is placing him in a prime position to deliver a spectacle. For Paddy, however, the honor is secondary to the ultimate goal, fighting for a belt. He declared, "That's all about winning the sincere and bells. The wooden cared of everyone's opening up the main card. That's all I'm fighting for, this belt. That's all I'm tossing the masses." This raw ambition underlines his laser-focused determination to claim UFC gold, regardless of the venue. So when that cage door finally closes on Justin Gaethje and Paddy Pimblett, there will truly be nowhere to hide. Every rumor, every prediction, every calculated strategy, and every hidden vulnerability will be laid bare in the octagon. This fight isn't just about strikes and takedowns, it's about proving who truly belongs among the elite, who can withstand the unimaginable pressure, and who has the mental fortitude to emerge from the ultimate collision of fire and chaos. The world waits to see which fighter will seize this career-defining moment, forever altering their trajectory in the sport